Yo, this is DJ Atoyu Many. Welcome to Yankee in Japan. One American, many stories, all from the land of the rising sun. So sit back, relax, and stay tuned.
Yo, this is DJ Atoyu Many, an American Yankee, as always, in the land of the rising sun. Anyway, hope you guys are having a great week in spite of the pandemic that we're in. So I want to start off today with a little story. I have a new job. I'm selling luxury goods, merchandise, bags, Gucci, Prada, Chanel, and stuff like that. And so, after work, I'm out with my coworkers and we're going back home. We're riding in the train. And one of my coworkers, she's ethnically Japanese, but culturally, she's Brazilian. You might already know this, but there was a huge Japanese immigration to both Peru and Brazil way back in the day. So her folks, her parents, they're full Japanese. They moved to Brazil, when she was probably before she was born. I'm not sure when they moved there, but she was born and raised there in Brazil. So she speaks perfect Portuguese. She's Brazilian right to her heart, and but her face looks completely Japanese. Yeah, it's really interesting. The reason I mentioned this and the reason why we had such an interesting conversation is because in Brazil, when other Brazilians saw her, they called her Asian. They called her Japanese, even though her what's that word in English? Kokuseki. Her nationality, oh my God, her nationality is Brazilian, but they term her as Asian, which is her ethnicity, and they see her as a Japanese person more than a Brazilian person. And then when she came here to Japan, even though she looks straight Japanese, the Japanese people call her Brazilian. So it's like, no matter where this girl goes, people only see half of who she is. But this brings home the point, and I don't think it's just Japan, but just living here in Japan for about 5 years, some things that I've noticed. There's a word in Japanese that they have, and the word is hafu. In English, we'd say half. And the interesting thing about this word is, let's say that you are a third, Indian, a third Chinese, and a third Russian, right? You would still be called hafu in Japanese because there's this concept, and it's still relatively new because you have to remember, and I've noted this several times in the past, Japan is an island country. It was closed off for centuries, and it's still not fully open the way some other countries are, especially in the West. You're not mixed, like we'd say in English, where you can be a quarter of something or a third of something. It's just 50-50 here. And even if they know that you're mixed with different things, you are still a hafu, which just shows off the newness of this concept. It's really interesting to see that. And another coworker of mine, we were sitting on the same row having this really interesting conversation. She mentions she has a son, and I'm not sure if she's married to a Japanese man, but her son is mixed. And she said that it's really interesting as a mother to see how Japan is evolving in terms of race and ethnicity. I myself am not a mother, probably can never be a mother, and I'm not a father either. However, I have noted some interesting things during my classes teaching Japanese people. There's a class I teach that I really enjoy called nationalities. Now, in Japanese, by the way, because I have to get some Japanese in here for you guys, nationality is kokuseki. That's the freaking word I was trying to remember earlier. I swear to you, the longer I stay in Japan, the longer I forget English, which is not good for an English teacher. Anyway, like I said, I teach this lesson called nationalities, and it's a pretty easy lesson as far as grammar and vocabulary. However, I like to teach it with both low-level students and higher level students simply because of the cultural, how can I say, the cultural aspect of it. Because in Japan, most people here are Asian and they're Japanese. The idea of foreignness in Japan is still novel, it's still fresh compared to some other countries. So when I bring this lesson out, there's pictures of 4 different men. And nationalities, we go into the conversation about, okay, where's this guy from? Look at the picture. Based on this picture, where do you think he's from? So there's this one guy from Mexico. So I asked the student, hey, where do you think this man is from? And they look at the picture and they say, oh, he's Mexico-jin. Ah, okay. So you want to say Mexican in English. And they say, yes, so. Okay. Now, how do you know he's Mexican? And so they say, oh, he's holding a Spanish guitar. He has the big Mexican hat. Oh, yes, that's called a sombrero in Spanish, and we also have that word in English. And there's just little words here and there I throw out. Now, this is not included in that lesson, but especially as a black person living here in a mostly Asian country, I put this in myself. And so I say, okay, you know he's Mexican. What is his ethnicity? Ethnicity? What's that? 何それ? Yeah, ethnicity means, for example, my ethnicity is black, but my nationality is American. And if they're still not really getting it, I'll say, okay, think about, let's do, I don't know, somewhere in Europe. This man is French. His nationality is French. His ethnicity is white. And then slowly they start to understand. Now this is where I throw them for a loop. Because some of the lower level students, they know the terms black and white. That's pretty standard. However, they don't know the word Asian. They say Ajiajin in Japanese, but they don't say Asian that much. And so for some of the lower level students, I asked them, okay, so Mr. Such and Such or Mrs. Blah blah blah, what's your ethnicity? Oh, I am Japanese. Yes. Very good, very good. What's your ethnicity? And sometimes I get this answer, yellow. No, don't say that one, right? And this innocent, they really don't know. And it makes sense, right? From the point of view of someone, first and foremost, English is not their native language. Second of all, the culture is not as accustomed to different ethnicities, different races, different cultures. For example, Japan's still a pretty isolated country. It's totally innocent. But I have to tell my students time and time again, white people are okay. You can say white people. You can say black people. You can't say yellow. Perhaps because all Asian people really aren't yellow. You know, that's not really a nice term. But even then, with black people, we're not all black. I'm more of a milk chocolate myself, from my own judgment. Not all white people are really white. I mean, you have people of a pinker complexion. Sometimes they're a little more tan. You know? But these are just basic things. But anyway, yeah, we can't say yellow. And it's just fascinating because there's this whole level of English that they're really not used to because they never have the opportunity to use it. And this culture that we have, especially in America, of race, ethnicity, you hear it in the news all the time. You hear it in conversation. It's such a big deal. But in Japan, they don't really think about it because everyone's Asian and everyone's Japanese. And so, yeah, that brings me back to the conversation I had with my coworker earlier. For her, she's culturally Brazilian and ethnically she's Japanese. And that just blows people's minds here. they can't wrap their heads around it. And it's just a culture, you know. I honestly think it's interesting. And like my other coworker said, because more and more mixed or biracial children are being born, you're seeing more international couples. I think the fabric of Japanese culture is changing in a really fascinating way. Case in point, as the pictures indicate in the description box of the podcast, only available to the people on Podbean. So if you can't see the pictures on your streaming service, definitely check out Podbean. Okay? Anyway, as you can see in the picture, there are two mixed athletes there. The first is Hachimura. He is a mixed basketball player. The other is Naomi Osaka. You've probably heard of both of them before. Really interesting background. A couple of years ago, you would not have seen that. Many years ago, you would not have seen that. And it was so awesome to see this in a mall. Like, they're using them for advertising in a country that is still getting used to foreignness. And they've really embraced it. I've never heard anything bad about Naomi Osaka or bad about Hachimura. And they're recognized as Japanese. And that really, I'm not half Japanese, of course, but the black part of me, you know, like, I felt proud. That was really cool. So, there's lots I can talk about when it comes to race and ethnicity in Japan, but that's another episode. For today, I want to talk about something completely different. I want to go back to my days in Hiroshima. Now, I was only there for 6 months as a teacher. Actually, technically, I wasn't a main teacher. I was an ALT, an assistant language teacher. But man, let me tell you, I had some adventures. I really liked teaching in Hiroshima, mostly because I could really have lots of hands-on lessons with the students, like really small kids, first graders, second graders in elementary, didn't know nothing. And I had to, bring them from the ground up when it came to English education. And I had to be creative. I had to think of games and songs, and they were just so cute. Like, the kids are so cute. And of all these kids and all these schools I was going to, there was one school in particular in the mountains that had a particular reputation, and that reputation wasn't so good. So, when I went to Hiroshima for the first time, I did my rounds in all my schools. Now, when I got to this one particular school, I remember the teachers, when they talked about the 5th grade students, they had this wary look on them. They gave me this look that was like, how can I explain it? You know, when you move to kind of a rough part of town, and they give you this look like, good luck. Yeah, it was kind of like that. Now, it wasn't so obvious, but some of them actually just came out and told me, the 5th graders in this school are really energetic. They're full of energy. They're powerful. But what they really wanted to say was, these some bad kids. Now, bad for Japan is not as bad as America. I ain't never heard of no one shooting up a school anywhere in Japan. Now, there has been one really brutal accident of, I believe, a middle schooler cutting off the head of another middle school student and putting his head on the freaking pike of the school fence. But that was years ago, and that's never happened again. But the kids here they're rowdy. Now, bad kids here, they call them Yankee. And that comes from the English word Yankee. There's a whole history behind that. But if you say the word Yankee, or Yankee in Japanese, it doesn't mean American. It means you're kind of a delinquent or a troublemaker. That's actually part of the reason why my podcast is called Yankee in Japan. For non-Japanese speakers, you would just, see that as an American living in Japan, which is part of the point. And it's also a cool selling point. Yankee doesn't mean what you think it is in English. It actually means American, which is exactly what I am. This one particular school, I remember the first day I showed up, I did my self-introduction in class. And before I even went to the class, just the roar of the students, the cacophony, the raucousness, the yelling, the screaming, the singing, the throwing of paper, the sliding of desks, the smacking of hands on things. It was such a loud class. And I remember thinking, what have I gotten myself into? But I was actually kind of excited too, I never taught really raucous class in Japan. I was used to the small, really tiny schools in Ehime where the kids were really calm, really obedient. So I was looking forward to some action, some excitement. But man, I didn't know what I was in store for. So there were about maybe 5 or 6 kids that were the main troublemakers in the 5th grade class. I was new there that year, and the new homeroom teacher, they were fresh. This really young guy. I'll call him Mr. Black. Mr. Black was probably younger than I am, I think. Fresh shaven, baby face, handsome guy. You know, this was his first year at this school. And the reason why they had a new teacher is because the previous homeroom teacher, she was so tired, so run down from these 5th graders that she had to take a break. Like mentally and physically, she was run down. Now, she was also an older woman, and this was a younger guy. So, you know, the expectation was, this guy can hang, right? No problem. He can hang. But let me tell you, the first day, he had no idea, and neither did I. But we were in this together. I remember him telling me about his class and just how Yankee, which means energetic or cheerful in English, how Yankee they were. Super Genki, mecha Genki. And he wasn't lying. They were Genki the whole time. I barely had time to get a word out because people were just yelling and screaming. Sometimes fighting. Not violently fighting, but just like, you know, kicking, scratching. You know what kids do. And so I remember thinking, dude, how am I supposed to do this? So I went to Mr. Black after the class, and I was like, I don't know how we're going to do this because I barely got my introduction out. And he was like, it's okay, we'll figure this out. And like I said earlier, there were these 5 kids who were the main troublemakers. And one in particular, we'll call him Little R. Yeah, Little R. Little R had ADHD or ADD, some type of disorder where he couldn't sit down. He would yell in class. He was very excitable, and he got angry very easily. Like his emotions were up and down, up and down, up and down. Just roller coaster kid. I remember the first time I had class, I used a TV monitor to show my slides and things like that to these kids. The PowerPoint slides I prepared. And this kid, Little R, like he had this habit of like just getting up in the middle of the class, just like standing up from his chair and walking around. And sometimes he'd fight with other kids. Sometimes he'd go to the window and just look outside. Sometimes he'd play with the TV and just like turn it off or like bang the computer and stuff like that. And Mr. Black, he would try his best to get the kid to settle down. But I could tell Little R didn't respect this dude. Like, who is this new blood on the street? Who does this guy think he is? You don't know nothing. Who you think you is trying to tell me something? That was his attitude, right? And this went on for days, weeks, months. Now, I had some problems with Little R because sometimes he'd get physical. It was nothing really that violent, but fortunately, but sometimes he just got very physical. As an ALT, we are taught to not discipline the kids. Now, I took that as being nice all the time. I was too nice. I never showed anger to these kids. I would just laugh and be like, stop, yeah. I didn't sound like that, but yeah, I didn't do anything. I had no discipline. And I remember one day, Little R, I was walking down the aisle where he was, and this kid just like stuck out his finger towards my private area, and this kid said to me, "Oi, sensei, broccoli o misero," which means, "Yo, teach, show me your broccoli." Now by broccoli, he didn't mean real broccoli. Think about what I just said. He pointed to my private area. He said, "Show me your broccoli." So you guys put 1 and 2 together, and I hope you can figure out what he meant. And sometimes he'd just like yell out obscenities like the F word, the S word, and like flip me off or flip other people off or flip off Mr. Black. He didn't respect anybody. And because Little R was so crazy, when the other kids saw him, they'd get crazy too. And it just went on for months and months. Now one day, after class, and Little R had been a good boy that day too. He stayed relatively quiet. He kind of did his work. And when I was getting my potions and my stuff together for the next class, I was talking to Little R. I forgot what he was talking about. but he got like really excited. Like I said, his emotions went up and down. And this kid, he just spit in my face. Like, pit. I'm like, what? What are you doing? Why would you do that? Now let me tell you, I've been nice up until that point. But that day, I was mad. So I told this kid straight to his face, and I don't remember exactly what I said. But I told him to quit. I told him to respect me as a teacher. How would you feel if someone did that to you? He was listening, but he didn't really seem to give a crap. I could tell. Like, I don't even think that he understood that what he did was rude. He just didn't have that concept. And I was just furious. I felt like I'm doing all this work. I'm trying to do my best for these kids, and I get spit on the face? Like, what is this, man? Like, get out of here. And then the teachers, sometimes I felt that I wouldn't even say felt. Sometimes I knew that some teachers didn't really care about how the ALT was treated. Now, Mr. Black, he was a cool guy. You know, he was young, he was more open-minded, and he made that kid apologize because I told him what happened. I told the other teachers in the room what happened. And so they berated him, and they punished him, and I remember Lil R came to the teacher's room one afternoon, I think it was the day afterwards, and he apologized, and he looked sorry. And I was like, okay, man, I forgive you, but don't you ever do that again. And he never did. A couple of months passed, and we found out that Mr. Black was leaving for another school. That was quick. Dang. I don't know what happened. It wasn't that he was punished or anything. He was doing a really great job. But the thing is, in Japan, every new semester, teachers will be moved around, sometimes to different schools, sometimes to different prefectures. And I could tell that Lil R was a little sad. So I knew he had come to respect Mr. Black, which felt good, finally. But it was a little sad to see him sad. I'd never seen it before. I'd also found out from some of the teachers that Lil R's home situation wasn't that good. His parents were going through a tough divorce. I don't think they really showed him much attention or much love. And for a kid that young, that's important, man. So I felt bad for him. And I kind of understood why he started doing that stuff in class. He wanted attention. He didn't want to be a bad kid. And yeah, I'm sure he probably enjoyed the attention and smacking people around and, you know, what little boy doesn't like being bad? But still, every kid deserves attention and love from his parents, and I don't think he got enough. But it just made me realize, you know, these kids, they're like kids everywhere else. They got the same problems, the same desires, the same hopes, same wishes, and you can't judge a book by its cover. Now, there ain't no excuse for spitting in somebody's face, but there's also no excuse for not showing your kid love. And so I'll never forget that kid, because to be honest with you, we had some good times. These kids were bad, man. Class was loud. That's what made it fun. I remember sometimes I just threw up my hands in the middle of the class because I knew there was nothing I could do. And so Mr. Black and I would look at each other, and we'd just smile because we were in the same boat with these wild and crazy kids. We couldn't do nothing. And the thing with Japanese schools are, these days, they're very, very hands-off and not so firm, not so strict with the kids. There's this educational system or this reform called yutori. And I don't remember when it changed, but before that, teachers were allowed to be very, very rough with the kids. Too rough, actually. Now, that's not good. But now it's taken away the power of teachers. Like, they are authority figures. And now there's not much they can do anymore because of this reform. So you've got these two extremes. The other was too rough, and the one now is just too limp, it's too lenient. And you know, I really saw how hard-working teachers are here. Like, these Japanese teachers, the hours they put in, the effort, time, and it's just, they go through so much. And the thing with teachers here is, they don't just teach. There's stuff they have to do with parents. There's PTA meetings. There's school clubs. There's coaching. And they're at the school all day. And I would just look at Mr. Black sometimes, and he'd just be like, face down. Like his palms on his eyes, just so freaking tired. Yeah, I miss that school. I miss the energy. I miss those kids. I miss Lil R. I miss Mr. Black. It was rough, But man, it was fun. Right now I'm teaching mostly adults, and we have some great conversation, but there's no challenge quite like teaching kids. Especially here. Especially when they spit in your face. So what about you guys? For all my teachers out there, tell me about a time you've had some problem kids or some problem students. What did you do? How did you handle it? What problems did you face? Did you get spit in your face? Let me know in the comment section. I'm always waiting to hear back from you guys. Well, time flies when you're having fun, and our time has flown. But before I go, I want to let you guys in on a great, awesome announcement. One of my friends here in Japan, this guy from New York, really great guy, great family man. He's made his own brand of clothing called Los Bandidos. Yes, Los Bandidos. Check him out on Instagram. Nice stuff, man. If you like street fashion, if you like casual wear, comfortable clothes, t-shirts, my man, he got you. Awesome designs, really witty quotes, cool pictures. This guy designed the stuff himself. This guy's a hustler. He's a businessman. And he's got some really cool merch. So definitely check out his Instagram. I will post it in the description box. So see it, follow it, buy it, wear it, and be cool. Alright? Well, time flies when you're having fun, and our time has flown. Thanks for coming out today, guys. Yankee in Japan's intro music was Hard Soul by Rainy Beats. And today's background music was Stars by Beat Ninja, Hatsu Koi by City Boy, and lastly, Moon by Ha Beat. And I'll see you next time.